Today is a game changer. It's the most important show that I've ever done on cholesterol. Now, you're about to meet the controversial doctors who say that everything we have been taught about cholesterol is wrong, that it doesn't cause clogged arteries or heart disease or even matter. Now, their explosive new book on cholesterol is turning the medical community upside down. Meet Dr. Steven Sinatra, a cardiologist, and Dr. Johnny Bowden, a doctor of nutrition. Two doctors with one very controversial message.
Everything the medical community believes about cholesterol is wrong.
Their provocative new book, The Great Cholesterol Myth, is sparking a whole revolution in how doctors think about cholesterol.
The idea that cholesterol causes heart disease is a lie.
Most people are worried about how high their cholesterol is, but the higher your cholesterol, the longer you'll live. I've been studying cholesterol for 40 years. I bought into this whole myth that fats cause heart attack, cause you to gain weight. I mean, I bought it hook, line, and sinker. I've had dozens of patients with low cholesterol numbers who were dying of heart attacks. It just didn't fit.
Something wasn't adding up, and we needed to get at the bottom of this. Blaming cholesterol for heart disease is like blaming the firemen for the fire.
We've been told for years not to eat beef and butter and dairy. Those are great foods, they're saturated fats. It's insanity.
So we're here to tell you, eat the burger. That's not going to be the thing that kills you.
The truth is, cholesterol will not harm you.
Cheers.
So, Dr. Sinatra, why is this book so controversial?
Well, you know, we've been led to believe that cholesterol causes heart disease, but it doesn't. I mean, doctors have been taught this, and millions of dollars have been spent on cholesterol-lowering drugs, and for most people, they don't work. But here's the real travesty. We've gotten off the mark. We've all felt that cholesterol causes heart disease, but there are other causes that we have to focus on.
You say we've missed those.
We've missed them.
Dr. Bowden, from a nutritional perspective, what are the biggest mistakes we're making?
The idea that fat and cholesterol cause heart disease. Trying to lower heart disease by lowering cholesterol is like trying to lower calories by taking the lettuce off your burger. It's just not the target we should be going after.
So Dr. Sinatra and Dr. Bowden say we got it all wrong when it comes to cholesterol by making two fundamental mistakes, and they're big ones. They say the first mistake is believing that cholesterol causes heart attacks. So I'm going to say I was taught that going through school. I think most folks here probably believe that cholesterol is involved with heart attacks. Why is that a mistake?
Well, first of all, cholesterol does not cause heart disease. Look, half the people with normal cholesterol have heart disease, and half the people with elevated cholesterol have normal hearts. So something's wrong here with this scenario. And look, you need cholesterol. It's vital for our cellular function. It makes vitamin D in the skin. It helps with cerebral vascular function. It helps with neurotransmitter function so we can think better. And it lubricates the skin. So it's a vital component of our lives, and it's protective. You know, it protects people from infectious disease of the GI tract, of the lungs. The higher your cholesterol, the less hemorrhagic stroke. And I got to tell you, the higher your cholesterol, according to some studies in Europe, the longer you're going to live.
You're kidding me. So some are arguing that higher cholesterols are actually better for you.
Yes.
Well, the Framingham study, which is the longest-running study of heart disease, the Framingham, Massachusetts, the older people with the highest cholesterol actually live the longest. That's right in the data.
Dr. Bowden, why is it that all of us came to believe that cholesterol in our food was a risk factor for cholesterol in our hearts?
It's what we've been taught for decades, and people believed the Earth was flat for hundreds of years as well, and it takes a long time to change those kind of perceptions. We've been taught this based on some research that was done in the 60s and 70s, which has since been shown to be extremely faulty. That research couldn't even get published today. It's been taken apart, but most well-meaning doctors who have no time anyway just don't have time to actually read the details of the research, because in that research it shows pretty clearly that cholesterol doesn't really lead to heart disease. It's a bad predictor.
So I thought long and hard as we're getting ready for this show about how to explain this to all of you. So I'm about to show you why this book is so controversial and at its core, why it's causing such a debate among heart doctors, general practitioners, and confusing all of you. Now, at the center of the debate is this important question. Are the traditional cholesterol tests that we do even relevant? Let me start there. To do this, I got to demonstrate what we think cholesterol is and what it does in your body. So, vitally important information. I'm going to go through it at a reasonable pace so we can all understand this. And this is what the ultimate debate comes down to. This, my friends, is what cholesterol looks like, right? This cholesterol It's found in your food. It's found in your body. It's goopy stuff. All right? Now, when you see this, it doesn't make you happy, right? You don't really want to have that lying around. That's what we thought for many years, especially with those studies, that in the early years of medicine were seeming so important. It turns out cholesterol is carried in two forms. It's carried in a form where it's protected. This is called healthy or HDL cholesterol. Right? Because it's in a good spot, it has special characteristics. It doesn't rupture. The lousy LDL cholesterol doesn't have this protective case around it. Why does that matter? Because when you go into your blood vessel, and this is what the blood vessel looks like, if you've got the healthy kind of cholesterol in this nice casing, protected, and you go down the artery and you bang into the artery, nothing happens. It doesn't matter that it banged into the artery because the cholesterol is hidden in these balloons, and the balloons are in this case. It's carried in a way that doesn't allow it to hurt you. This kind of cholesterol ends up being good for you. That's why healthy cholesterol numbers end up not being a risk factor. In fact, it's a good cholesterol to have. But here's the problem. You take some of these cholesterols, right, these kinds of cholesterols that are carried in a lousy form, this sort of flimsy form here, and you take these and you try to pass these down the blood vessel, and watch what happens. It all of a sudden splatters all over the place. And now you have plaques deposited through here that are causing all kinds of problems, gumming up your arteries. That's the fundamental difference between how cholesterol is carried inside your body. Now, I think it's vitally important to know cholesterol numbers. That's my perspective. But my colleagues, these doctors, will argue that it's not the full story. So, Dr. Sinatra, I want to go through this slowly for the audience because we've been asking people to get their cholesterol numbers tested.
Right.
And I just explained why the total cholesterol doesn't matter, right? We showed that. It's how it's carried that matters. But what else am I missing here with this demonstration?
Well, the root cause of heart disease is inflammation. I mean, inflammation causes that plaque. And what causes inflammation? Well, it's how much we weigh, what we put into our body. And sugar is the enemy. Sugar is the villain. And when you have sugar in your blood, when you rub those balloons, it creates plaque. It creates oxidative stress and plaque. And that plaque hits the food substance, and the sugar causes all that gunk in the vessels. You get an enormous insulin response. It's that simple.
Well, this brings us to a huge problem, folks, right? Because we've used cholesterol numbers to guide us in giving you cholesterol-lowering drugs, like the statin drugs, those many drugs, Lipitor, Mevacor, all those drugs that we give you. And it turns out, Dr. Sinatra, Dr. Bowden argue the second cholesterol mistake is believing that statins are safe and will prolong your life. Now, this is incredibly controversial. So why don't you think they work, and why do you think they're unsafe?
Well, I've been practicing cardiology for 40 years, and I used statins for 20 years. And I have to tell you, statins, they're anti-inflammatory drugs. There's no question. They can thin the blood. They happen to lower cholesterol. But that's the problem. They lower cholesterol, but cholesterol is not the root cause of heart disease. It's inflammation. And these statins have tremendous side effects. I mean, tremendous side effects. So we have to really get away from statins. But statins will work in one particular population. Middle-aged men with coronary disease, preferably those men with a low HDL. So statins have some utility, but for the general population, especially women and children, I don't prescribe statins at all.
None?
None.
Do you have no women in your practice who are on statin drugs?
I might have less than 1% of women in my practice on statin drugs.
Who here, if I can ask among the women, who's on a statin drug? Put your hands up. I mean, there's a dozen people just in this section of the audience here. So your guess would be, if they were in your practice, they would not be on statin drugs.
And the most common consult I saw for years was women in their 30s and 40s that would come into my office and say, Dr. Sinatra, I'm on this cholesterol-lowering drug. Can I get off? I would take them off immediately. They'd be crying. They'd be hugging me because they were told that they were going to die with high cholesterol, and nothing is farther from the truth.
I'm flabbergasted. I didn't realize less than 1% of women in your practice,
in my practice
are on statin
drugs.
drugs. Well, let me ask you this then. In general, if they tend to be safe, I mean, I know you say they have side effects, but I didn't realize they're as commonly reported to cardiologists as you're making it seem, then they would seem to be a relatively easy thing to give patients. Am I missing the boat there?
No, they're easy to give patients, and that's the problem. But the side effect profile is enormous. The Women's Health Initiative in postmenopausal women showed a 48% incidence of diabetes on those women on statin drugs. And younger women in the Jupiter study can have a 13% incidence. So women got to be really careful about statin drugs, and they can also predispose you to cancer as well. So I am dreadfully concerned about statin drugs.
Can I
Yes, please, Dr. Moon.
you know, the child's brain is not fully grown until age 25. The cerebral cortex isn't finished growing. We need cholesterol for memory, for thinking, for sex hormones. The idea of putting children on cholesterol-lowering drugs is just the greatest tragedy waiting to happen. It's a bad idea.
Well, it's happening a lot.
I know.
But can I go back for 1 second? Because I'm blown away by these side effects you're reporting. So you're saying there's data that statin drugs cause diabetes
Correct.
and cancer?
And cancer. And coronary calcification, memory loss, sexual dysfunction, muscle pain, liver problems.
Well, why don't we hear about these more?
Because they're grossly underreported. They are so grossly underreported, it's unbelievable.
There was a tremendous study which actually surveyed doctors and looked at the side effects being reported. 65% of doctors never reported it to MedWatch because they didn't believe it was associated with statin drugs.
Well, Dr. Bowden, if we're not going to use statins, then what would you recommend to folks if they wanted to deal with the risk of heart attack and blockages you just showed here?
I talk about things that will keep the heart healthy, not just keep your cholesterol lower. Lowering inflammation, which you can do with foods and fish oil and certain supplements, but certainly with anti-inflammatory foods. Getting rid of toxic relationships, lowering stress in your life, getting some sunshine and some vitamin D and being out and getting some exercise. All these things keep the heart healthy. And keeping the heart healthy is not the same as lowering cholesterol.
So before I give my thoughts on statins, I want to just say I think we can agree that food can be a potent option.
Huge.
When we come back, I'm going to talk.